like music, Mr. Finch?
2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey there guys, I am not a Titan, and I am definitely not a music critic, especially since I haven't done a video in like over 3 months. Basically, I've just been really busy lately, and for a while I basically went through this crazy little emo phase. So I decided that I wanted to do another video, and I might just continue doing this. I really hope I continue doing this. Did I miss you guys? Yes. Did you miss me? Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Part of the reason I'm actually doing videos again is because of this guy, the Needle Chop, Anthony Fantana, who is this wonderful guy on YouTube who does these really fantastic album reviews. He's just really good at what he does. And so I got kind of basically inspired by him, which sounds cheesy, but I got inspired by him to do it again and see how I do. So I'm going to change things up a little bit. I'm only going to do one review a day, just one straight review on one album. I think that'll just make it a little more structured. And I'm going to try to keep up with stuff, and even if I find an album that I don't love it, but I still like it, if it's interesting and I think it's good enough to show you guys, I'll show you. That way that I'm not limiting myself to having to find an album that I fall in love with. So, without further ado, today I'm going to be doing a review on Privilege Part 1 on Death and Endearments by Parenthetical Girls. Now, Parenthetical Girls is a really unusual band. I must have really only found them within this year, but they are intriguing in so many ways. Just everything about them seems really interesting. Zach Pennington fronts the band, and by the way, Zach Pennington is the prettiest man on earth, and I hate him for this. I'm going to kill him and steal his face and put it on mine. Anyway, I guess about 8 to 9 years ago was when he started the project himself. He only did recordings, didn't do anything live. He has a very nice singing voice, but he intentionally puts like squeals and squeaks into it and kind of goes to a falsetto and makes it sound very feminine and almost operatic, but not quite. So as the years went on, every couple of years he would basically get new members and they would add to the project, and eventually they started touring. They did an album in 2004, album in 2006, and then my favorite so far was the album in 2008, which I look back on. For a while, I wasn't really sure I liked the band, but then I finally looked back into the album 2008 Entanglements, and it's a beautiful piece of work. It sounds a lot like a musical, very theatrical all the way through. It's a lot catchier than their older stuff, a lot more full. Like all their music, it's very vocal-centric in the recording style, but still, you can hear the other instruments better in this, and they have more of a part to play. It's definitely my favorite of what I've heard of theirs. Privilege Part 1 is, in fact, the first part of a 5 EP album release. I believe each EP is going to have 4 songs on it. They're all being released separately. The interesting thing about this is that each EP is being released only as 500 vinyl copies, and that is it. 500 records. You can do them for pre-order on the website, and of course you can buy them after if they aren't all taken by pre-orders. Now, each of the 5 EPs, the cover of it is going to be a sketch-drawn picture of one of the 5 members of the band. So, of course, the first one, Zach Pennington. The second one is Rachel. The third, fourth, fifth ones are going to be the other members of the band. Also, on the back of each sleeve for the vinyl, for instance, for Privilege Part 1, since Zach Pennington is on the front, he has taken his blood and numbered 1 to 500 all of the vinyl sleeves on the back. I'm actually going to post a video down there in the Doobly-Doo Pants bar to basically prove to you that these people are totally nuts and have decided to sign the vinyl sleeves with their blood. Each of the other EPs after this will be numbered in the blood of whichever person is on the front of that album. Now, I'll finally actually tell you how this EP sounds. Like I said, a lot of their older stuff, especially Entanglements, is very much sounds like a musical, very theatrical, a lot of brass in there and violin, and it's very vocal-centric, and so you can definitely tell that the vocals and the words are the biggest focus. Even though the music is very intense and it's very complex, it still kind of takes a backing to the words a lot of the time. The first song on there, Evelyn McHale, actually has a very like oldies, 40s, 50s sound to it, which reminds me a lot of what Arcade Fire has been doing with their new stuff, what Grizzly Bear has been doing on Vectimist, and I think it's an interesting thing that a lot of these indie bands are taking that kind of 40s, 50s, oldies style that kind of makes me think of almost like the Turtles or the Animals and stuff like that, stuff with a lot of organ and stuff that's very jazzy, but has a kind of acoustic guitar and vocals kind of center to it. So that's got an interesting sound. It's a little bit drawn out. I've noticed that Zach Pennington writes a lot. He just writes a lot of words. And so in the end, you get a song that he says a lot, and sometimes you kind of drift off into it, and you lose a little bit of what he's saying, and so you either have to read it or you got to listen to it again, because you just drift off into his voice, or you get into sometimes the long repetitions of music in the background, and it just you get lost. Either way, it's a really good song, and it's a little bit catchier than a lot of their older stuff. I would say, in general, this EP is a lot catchier than a lot of their older work. Not that one is better than the other, but it sticks to you a little bit more when you first listen to it. Someone Else's Muse, the second track, has a lot of interesting percussion to it. It doesn't sound loud, but there's a lot of different percussion instruments in it. It has this really simple organ keyboard part doing a rhythm, and it doesn't change notes very much, but it keeps kind of a backing to the song. It's really nice. My favorite song is the third one on there, On Death and Endearments, the title track of the EP, which is this really interesting mix between theatrical orchestral work and like a new wave, almost gothy kind of sound. It's not exactly dark, but it seems kind of like almost dark, basically. There's this interesting backing. The thing that drags throughout the entire song is this interesting kind of rhythmic part that's just little bits of like a person doing like a choir kind of like sound, and it just changes notes, does a little bit of melody in the background, and the words do drag on, but he uses his voice in this way that is very melodic, and so he changes the way he's going a lot, and so it makes an instrument of itself. And that song has just definitely caught my ear the most. The percussion and the rhythm in that one is really strong, and it's a lot louder than it is on a lot of their other music. Fourth song, Found Drama I, or Found Drama 1, I'm not even sure which one it's supposed to be, is also a very musical sounding orchestral kind of piece, but it makes a big conclusion. It sounds a lot like more of the stuff on Entanglements, but the slower ones. You can tell that it was definitely meant to be a conclusion. When they wrote this song, it almost sounds like it was made specifically to be the last song on this EP. It's very slow, very calming, almost has a type of synth pop type of aura to it. In terms of his lyrics, Zach Pennington's writing, being so long as it is, has always been really different. He writes in a way that's very abstract, a lot of almost like abstract modern novelists. Almost reminds me of the way that Chuck Palahniuk writes his books. So, like I said, I'd be doing a little bit different. So starting with this one, I'm going to actually be giving things ratings. As for Parenthetical Girls, Privilege Part 1, On Death and Endearments, first part of the 5 EP album release, I would right now give this a good 7 out of 10. It's something that I feel I'm probably going to have to listen to more to catch me. I know that it's a short album, and so I might be a little biased. But I do feel like some of the songs drag on a little bit. And once again, a lot of the sounds do kind of get drowned in his voice. So I'm going to give this a 7. Honestly, it might move up to a 7.5 or an 8 or even a 9 on how my opinion changes. This is a band that I feel needs to grow on you. Like I said, I'm leaving you a couple links down there in the pants. I'm going to be giving you a link to the video where Zach Pennington takes his blood taken and numbers the vinyl sleeves. I'm going to be giving you 2 videos of my favorite songs by Parenthetical Girls right now, so you can get a good impression of their music and what I think is best. And I'm also going to give you a link to Anthony Fantana's blog, The Needle Drop, so you can see how good he is, and maybe you can thank him for me making another video, and maybe you'll follow him too. I think you should, because he has really good taste, and I think it'll help you find some good music. So, I'm Alex, I am not a Titan, and I am not a music critic.